Oh, yep, hang on,
Okay.
just in case. I got a vacation coming up, nothing's stopping me from being very
I
careful.
just talked to Aaron Rose about an hour ago, and she said, of course, they got back, Ella stayed with Linda all week, and they get back from their cruise, and Ella's got COVID.
Oh,
She don't know whether, and
no.
Linda's got COVID, so they don't know who gave it to who.
Aw.
So they had to get it from somebody because there's no school last week, so Ella stayed there all week.
all right. Good evening, everyone. What a lovely day today.
It's gorgeous.
Shall we begin, Val? Everyone all set? Board and Val? All right.
Oh, I didn't print you a copy, I usually do. I'm
Huh?
sorry.
Here.
I usually print you a copy and I
Oh, that's
forgot.
okay. I don't
Go ahead.
I don't need to keep track. That's Ian's job.
Well, I know that.
That's good. All right. Is Joel there or did he just leave?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
Yes,
Let's call the select board meeting to order at 7:01 for April 25th, 2022. Review agenda for addition, removal, or adjustment of any items. Val, any changes this evening?
No changes.
Okay. 2, overview of Zoom meeting operation and procedures. Usual, everyone should have their microphones muted, and if you wish to speak, please be recognized by myself, the chair. Public forum. 5 minutes to discuss anything that's not on this evening's agenda. Anyone have any public forum items? Doesn't look like it. Okay. Department head roundtable. 5 minutes per person. Let's start. I saw Bruce was there. Let's start with the police department. Bruce.
Can you hear me all right from here?
It'd be better if you sat just so the camera can get you, if that's okay.
I won't breathe on you.
No, that's okay.
Thanks, Bruce.
Certainly.
So, as we all know that with COVID, our mental health calls have increased quite a bit. I'm gathering some information and I would like to propose that if you haven't used all of the ARPA funding, that we consider using ARPA funds to create a position for a mental health worker or substance abuse person to join us at the police department and help us with our calls for service. So it would be, if we did it full-time, it'd be about $80,000 a year. But I think it would be a good investment. I know that Counseling Service of Addison County is writing for a grant to try and increase the number of workers that would be available, but that's going to take a little time. So I
Okay.
think that would be something to consider.
And this is something so I'm the liaison to the police department as a select board member, and I've been working with Bruce on this. It was something, we had a meeting after our couple meetings ago. And we just sort of started talking about this, thinking about the ARPA funds and thinking about what does the police department really need? What could be really useful? You know, Bruce received a grant to have a fourth full-time officer, and that's coming along. But it seems like this is a really needed position. And it's a position that obviously a lot of different groups are looking to fill or, are trying to fill. And it's obviously very difficult. But I figured, we might as well just sort of suggest this and put this forth as a viable contender for ARPA funds.
What are your, I'm just thinking of other ways to fund it so it wasn't through the police department. What are your calls for service for mental health outside of the district? Are they even or equal to? I mean, so I guess what I'm trying to say is this something that could be a town position that worked under the auspice of the police department, or or
It was paid to the town taxes.
paid by the whole, so that it was used.
It would certainly, everybody would benefit.
I-
And some of our calls, when we're dealing with people, they might be here in the village, or excuse me, the district. They're not necessarily a district resident, but when they're encountering their crisis, they're here. So,
What's, just thinking outside here, what's the thought of maybe checking with maybe the Jensen going with a joint venture? For just that position.
right, that's one of the options that we're exploring, but if we did the full position ourselves, I think there's enough calls for service, and it's not just the immediate call, it's the follow-up. So right now, if somebody's looking for some kind of mental health services, there's a backlog. So when somebody's in crisis, we need somebody that can help immediately, and then for the next 2 to 3 weeks before they get into more long-term service.
Instead of waiting 3 months.
Instead of waiting 3 months or whatever it is. And it's not just mental health. Sometimes it's mental health, substance abuse, or a combination of. So having somebody that has the ability to respond to the initial call and assist us in assisting that person, and then for the short term, continue to provide them some kind of service. I can tell you that when COVID first started and everything shut down, we did have people that we went to for a couple of weeks every other night and sat with them for 15, 20 minutes at a time to help them work through some of the issues that they had. So if we had somebody available that could assist us with that, it would just, give us more time for other calls. I mean, there are some things that I'm still behind on, just because the staffing level, it's just the way it is. And the mental health calls have definitely increased for everyone.
Would you be opposed to it being a person that worked for the town under your direction, as opposed to somebody who was a police department employee?
No, I wouldn't be opposed to that.
I think that's a discussion the rest of the board has to have then at some point, sooner rather than later.
And Bruce, you feel this would be a full-time, a 40-hour week position?
I believe, yes.
Okay.
I really think that once the person got there, and it's, a lot of it is the spending time in the follow-up.
Right.
We spend time going to check on people that we deal with. And by doing that, it makes it easier for us on the next encounter. If we weren't doing that, then things would be escalating even more. So having somebody that can focus on it. Now, I can't get there every week. It might be 2 weeks before I get back to somebody, but I'll stop in and check on them. And when you stop to check on them, you might be there 45 minutes to an hour,
Right.
just, making
That's
sure
what
that
this
they're,
new person could do.
that, yes, they could focus on that. That would be their focus. We could go in with them, they could go with us, or they could focus on it.
Instead of saying, if you went, that person said, Baker, okay, you're all set for tonight, we're coming back, I'll be back tomorrow, Tuesday morning. Up to date.
In some of these,
Something like that.
some of the people that are in crisis, they need someone just to guide them through the process, maybe getting a ride to a service or reminding them that they have an appointment coming up. So it's somebody being able to focus on that would certainly minimize the number of times we'll have to respond.
Okay. Well, let's see. I think Bruce, you were going to maybe present more details at the next meeting in a couple weeks. So maybe we could just have that as an agenda item. You can bring forth what your research, and then the board can also have the discussion of it being an employee position at the town versus at the police department level. Okay. Anything else, Bruce? Okay. Okay. Moving on. Eric, Public Works Department. I see you there. Thank you, Bruce.
I'm here.
Yep.
Not much on the agenda, just starting to rescrape the roads back up and get them reshaped again. We got 2 trucks that are down right now, the Mack and the Freightliner, so they're both getting worked on. The Mack hopefully will be done by the end of the week. And the Freightliner, not sure, because there's a part for the DF system that's on back order. They don't know when they're going to get them in. And right now it's in D-rate mode, so you can only do 35 with it. So we can't use the truck. And that's over to Bristol Diesel Works. And that's about it.
Okay. Any questions for Eric? All right. Thank you very much, Eric.
Yep.
Meredith.
All right. All right, so it's been busy at the Bristol Rec Department. We had Bobby Stoddard and his crew go and work on the playground in Town Green. So you'll notice that he did quite a bit of repair for some of the posts that are there. So that's great. There's a few little things to finish. We just needed more supplies. And that was great. Bobby donated his time and the materials. And so we'll see an invoice just to cover his extra guy. In the past, we had talked about 3,000, but it actually is going to come in around 1,500.
Right.
That's great. That's fantastic. And it looks great. Our gymnastics class is back. It's great. BES has been phenomenal with letting us use the space, and their custodian setting up most of the uneven bars, which takes about 2 people to set that up. So we're really appreciative about that. Swim is getting closer. I was a little worried there that I might not be able to pull it off. But one of the lead that we've had in the past is coming back. So I'm working out details with her. And then from there, we hope to get at least 5 instructors to help out for the summer. The idea was to run the program July 11th through August 5th, but I think we might only do 3 weeks instead of 4 weeks with that. Okay. And then we did get a grant from Rise Vermont for the fitness trail around the Bristol Rec field. And so we're moving forward with that. And we are also getting some silver lake construction.
Great. Excellent. Congratulations on that grant.
Thank you. Yeah, so things are happening. We're excited about this summer and all the events and programming that we're going to give out to the community.
Fantastic. Thank you. Any questions for Meredith? Excellent. Thank you very much, Meredith. Let's move to Sharon.
Hi, how are you? How is everyone tonight?
Fantastic.
Let's see. Starting today, House representatives can file their candidacy forms with their voter signatures. They have until May 26th to file for the August election. So election stuff is already starting up. We stayed as one category for redistricting, even though they have done some revamping of the website. So we have some new things to learn there. I am going to training next month for the new tabulator, which we haven't gotten yet. We've just got the box that it sits on. So hopefully I'll get that when I go for training next month. Our land records are pretty well caught up. Nicole is out now. She's going to have her hip surgery this week. And we have advertised for a full-time person for assistant town clerk and assistant town treasurer. It's been posted. We've already got a couple of interested people that have sent us resumes. So it's also going to be in the Addison Independent in 7 days. So hopefully we'll get more and we'll have some good candidates to choose from.
Terrific. That sounds very
overweight permits are almost done. Only have a handful left. Liquor licenses, except for a few that haven't come back from DLC as approved, are winding down. So, and just a lot of different people asking for different stuff. I sent out delinquent tax bills, so I got a lot of calls today.
Sorry to hear that. Great. Thank you, Sharon. Any questions for Sharon? All right. Moving on. I think that's it. I see a Town of Bristol logged in. I don't know who that is. Maybe that's Brett.
Brett.
Brett's away.
No,
Yeah,
he's
that's,
home.
hi Ian,
Who-
can you hear me?
Yeah, who's that?
It's Brett.
Oh, hey, Brett.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, Brett, fire department, go ahead. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, just a couple of quick updates. I guess kind of first and kind of not in the same line with what Bruce was discussing, but pandemic, we, the Bristol Fire Department, have seen our greatest impact on our personnel in recent weeks since the beginning of the pandemic. We've had one out here or there, but we had 5 out. So it's a reminder of it's still very prevalent everywhere and right here in our own community. And just something to be mindful of and how disruptive it can be to business operations, especially when you're in the emergency services business. So it's just something that's always on my mind, and we just have to work through it and ensure we have appropriate staffing so we can continue to provide our services. But kind of speaking along those lines of services, it's something I want to start looking at this year and coming forward to the board, perhaps in the fall around budget time, but just talking about the types of services we provide here at the Bristol Fire Department, and have conversations about possibly fine tuning those services, paring down, just based on availability of personnel to do certain tasks, that once it was just, whether it was an expectation people had the time to do these things or not. Every group of people has their kind of core group that they really depend on day in and day out to take care of a lot of business, and a lot is on the shoulders of that group of people here at the Bristol Fire Department. And I just always have to be very mindful of that, because the last thing you want to do is burn out those who you count on the most. And kind of going along those same lines, I do have one resignation in hand. I anticipate another one here in the next couple of months, both due to relocation. One to another town here in Addison County and another out of state. I don't have any names for you yet, but they're 2 people who are, they're firefighters. They're those people who I, depend upon when the tones drop, and that's my dog. Sorry, Scout. And sorry, lost my train of thought there. Oh, so like I do most every year, I am thinking about some recruitment efforts, even stuff as simple as just some messaging on our social media sites, Front Porch Forum, Facebook, etc. Just, I always like to go fishing, and sometimes I get lucky, just by a few posts like, hey, looking for anybody who, would like to consider learning more about the Bristol Fire Department and possibly consider joining the organization. So yeah, and we're all getting a little bit older. So always have to keep that in mind. We are definitely not a youthful fire department. I mean, that's not to be disrespectful to anyone. I mean, I'm getting older myself. It's just, I look down the ranks and, we might have maybe 2 people in their 20s, and it just goes up and up from there. And many of those older folks are ones we depend on a great deal, day in and day out. And so, again, those are the things that are always in the back of my mind. One of these days, some of these guys they're going to want to step back and take a break and do other things with their families, in retirement or whatever. Maybe even move south for a few months of the year. Who knows? So those are some of the things that have been weighing on my mind recently. I'm just returning from a week of leave, so it was good to get away, get refreshed. The boys and girls were definitely busy while I was gone. I think they had 7 runs while I was away, so they definitely were active. And I know we just wrapped up a weekend of hosting the Addison County Regional Fire School over at the high school and here at the fire station. So I've heard it went well, so that's great. I know we had a few of our folks who were enrolled in courses over the weekend. But other than that, we've been calls keep coming, and we've done a tremendous amount of training already this year. But a lot of that is being done in preparation for the summer when it's a little bit slower on the training front, as people are away, camping or vacations, etc. But all in all, things are good here. Definitely keeping an eye on the budget. We're doing well. There's a few things we might be able to take care of here at the facility that we might not otherwise been able to. But paying very close attention to it as we draw to the close of the fiscal year to see if we can accomplish some of those things we want to get done here. So, but other than that, a question I posed to Valerie. I know, Valerie, I don't think you've gotten any definitive answers, but I'm still wondering about the landscaping over here at the fire station and if that will be in fact addressed by the contractor who did all this work here last year. So
Brett, I actually responded twice that the contractor will be returning in the spring when the soil warms up so that they can work with it and plant stuff and clean things up, but they will be returning.
okay, well, that's good news. So
Check your email. Okay.
no, I guess I never saw where they were actually returning. It was quite concerning, just the poor job that was done to begin with, Valerie. So, and if you folks from the select board haven't seen it, I would highly recommend you come over here and take a look. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Brett. And Brett, so regarding the responsibilities of fire department personnel, I'd be happy as liaison for the fire department to talk with you about that when you're ready, and then we can bring it to the select board if and when you'd like to do that.
Sure. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Great. Any questions for Brett? Okay. Thank you very much, Brett. All right. Let's move on.
If I could jump in for Anthony, who's not logged in. I know that he was planning to attend, but something must have come up. He's in the home stretch. We've heard this a lot, but he actually is in the home stretch of the audit. The auditor was in town and in the office last week, covered a lot of ground. So we're hoping to see a draft audit in May. And other than that, he's been plugging away on that, focusing a lot on that.
Also, too, just so the board knows, he and I and Val are continuing our investigation and research into the budgeting software. He and I did another demo today of the Questica system, and we now have a system that we can log into to be able to do testing. That's still the top on our list when we're looking at the software. There's in our research, we found that there's not much out there that does everything that Questica can do. And the more that we use it, the more that we look at the demos, the more that's revealed. And so it looks more and more positive. And obviously there is the financial amount attached to that, but I think it's sort of looking at it and looking what it can do. I think in the amount of time it can potentially save us. So I think in probably a couple of weeks, we'll sort of bring forth information about other systems that we've considered, and also what other towns are doing, and present again.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thanks, Val. Do you want to follow up on something there, Val?
Yes, on that note, we, at least Anthony and I, I'm not sure if you are looped in, we're going to be checking out another demo from Limelight, a company called Limelight, on Wednesday, I believe it is.
Okay. Great. Thanks, Val. All right. Moving on. Regular business.
Our water operator's on.
She's on for number 4.
Yeah,
Sure.
well, she's on for the pumps, but it's just a general update.
Yeah.
Sure, that'd be great. My apologies. Jill, Water Department.
We
Thank you.
are both here. Woo woo.
Jill and Cy are here.
He hangs out in the shadows sometimes. Yes. So we have Bristol on the schedule for most of the month in May and June, as far as kind of working towards. We've got a couple rehabs left to finish up on a couple manholes. We are meeting with Eric on at least 1 or 2 of those on Wednesday to just kind of get through whatever needs to be done as far as routing traffic around for sidewalks and or parking lots or roadways. We've got a structure to give some love to over at the wastewater field. We were super awesomely delighted to find that the line that goes between The outflow box of the septic field and the splitter box is actually plastic, so it's just the elbow at the end that's rotted, which is really super great news. So we just have to pop down in the splitter box and replace the elbow. So another really good thing. We've got that scheduled out to do in June. So it'll be pump out the septic tank, do bypass pumping, and do both projects, and just have a really intensive week to get all that work done. But that's kind of the plan, is to hit that in kind of the middle-ish of June and get that taken care of in this fiscal year and knock it off the list on the wastewater inspection. And then a couple different water projects, be it looking at curb boxes that need to be repaired, looking at valves that need to be repaired, marking out water lines, and doing any repairs that we find on the 2 roads that are being paved. Yeah, so Eric had let us know that I think it's Lawrence Lane and Spring Street. Do I have that right? Okay, perfect. So we've got an investigative day to just kind of mark things out, do some listening, etc., and do the same thing for a few other customer inquiries where we think there might be water leaks in different areas in town. So that's kind of where we're headed. Also, just kind of a preliminary checking to see. I know Pine Street has been something that everybody has been wanting to move forward on for some time now. And I'm going to try to help you guys get there. I've kind of reached out to some of people that I know at the state to say, what do you need? How do we get on the P list? How do we prioritize? And what year do we fit in for construction? So
P list, by the way, means priority list.
oh yes, it's the drinking water, which is different than the clean water. They're 2 different departments. It gets super confusing because you think clean water means drinking water. It's wastewater and stormwater. They say clean water to make it sound good, right? So the clean water P list is all set. The drinking water P list, according to the person that runs the division, there is a possibility. They understand that some really interesting things happen this year that are quite unusual. So we're going to see what we can't do to get you guys back lined up for funding and to be able to get things out to bid and hopefully start early next spring, instead of things just kind of getting older, looming, missing out on funding. I mean, there's like $1 million on the line for you guys. So the second piece of that I was asking Valerie about and asking the state about was, rather than put out to bid a control panel replacement at the pump station, which is your water treatment facility, it probably makes more sense to wrap that up into the step 1. See if a hydraulic analysis is involved and try to get 100% funding for that step 1. 50% funding for step 2, which is your design, and truly look at everything at the pump house. So I know we've been hearing from the energy committee that they want us to try to not just cut the power bill, but conserve power. And to do that means doing a comprehensive look at the full water treatment facility, how the water comes in, how long it has contact, how it's getting pumped, what the pumps are, how they're running, how much power they have, etc. And that is the perfect thing to do with a study and a design. And then hopefully it takes advantage of a good amount of funding that'll be coming through even after the current funding cycle, because there is a whole nother slew of money coming through. So get ourselves set up. And then we're doing it proactively and not reactively, and truly doing a good project that upgrades everything and hopefully saves quite a bit of energy. So that's the big update. And we're working on
a big update. You guys have been busy.
Yes, we're working on our budget. I think Valerie said the tentative meeting would be May 23rd.
Yeah.
Okay.
Something like that.
Okay, something like that, so that it gets done as the annual water and sewer.
Right, the second meeting in May.
Okay, fantastic. Any questions for Jill or Cy? All right, thank you, and we'll see you later on in this meeting.
All right, we'll stay tuned.
Okay, moving on, unless I've missed somebody else. I don't think so. Regular business. Town Green Park use application by Crooked Ladle Catering, formerly Bobcat Catering, for weekly food and music offerings Monday nights starting June 13th from 5 to 9 p.m. I don't know if I know that Jennifer is on.
Hi.
Hello there. The floor is yours, and I don't know if it's working together with Meredith and or Val in terms of this application. Obviously, you did it last year to much acclaim.
Yeah, it went really well. So it's a different name. So we just kind of got a little bit too big for that very small Bobcat kitchen and are kind of on our own now. So it's Crooked Ladle Catering. So it's Lou and I, obviously husband and wife. And we're looking to do the same thing we did last year on the town green with music and vendors, like craft vendors, a couple more food options. And we're thinking Mondays because there is really nothing open in Addison County on Mondays at all. And
I don't know if you've been hungry in Addison County on a Monday and not wanted to cook. It's borderline impossible. So,
and so it would just be a nice option, and it just went so well last year, and we were able to do a nice donation to MCMC. We might pick a different charity this year. Not really sure what we might do. But would keep you posted if we're approved. And we have 3 Squares food truck lined up, our food truck, Lulu Ice Cream, Tim O'Toole and his hot dog cart,
yep.
And then Aiden Lenahan is on board to help organize that music.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, it was very successful last year, and I don't believe there were any issues that I heard of. I know you're doing alcohol there. I guess the one issue I saw when I attended one was a little bit of wandering by patrons with alcohol. So that's obviously something that you need to be mindful of and need to keep an eye on. But people, it's an open park, and people like to be able to leave that area. But obviously, there does need to be an area that's designated, and people need to stay in there.
Right. And it happened because I think our area was a little too small, and the way it was set up really wasn't conducive. And so by the end, we really had it dialed in. And Chief, I know he's on here, and I and Aaron were always kind of chatting about what was going on and keeping an eye out. And by the end, it ended up being there was like no issues by our last one.
Great. Yeah, I think it was probably the first or second that I attended and I happened to just notice that. Maybe it was even the first one. So I'm sure, as you say, by the end, it was fixed. Great. Any questions from the board?
So this will be Monday nights. Or last year, was it Friday nights? Do I have that right?
Yes, last year was Fridays, and it did kind of benefit the town and all of that. But now that kind of COVID is on the decline, and the restaurants in Bristol are all doing really well, it will give an opportunity for the restaurants that can't open on Mondays due to staffing, like 3 Squares, and like a lot of restaurants might have an opportunity to bring like a smaller
offering
operation
to the table,
right,
to be able to continue, because a lot of businesses used to be 7 days a week, and obviously to do something in the park, it takes less staff. We do it with 2 to 4 people between the bar and the food truck. It's about 4 people, and then music, that's 5, and then the band. So that's obviously less staff than what a restaurant would require. So we always keep the invitation open, and we want to keep all food and vendors that are there within Addison County. We're not trying to invite, all the folks from Burlington. Not that we don't like them, but they've got their own opportunities up there, and we're just kind of trying to bring a little bit of that down here. So that way, instead of having to go to Burlington to do something on a Monday, you could do something in your hometown.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Any other questions, board?
Bruce, did you have any issues with it?
No, they're very easy and good to work with.
Was the timeline okay? I mean, I'm thinking 9 was a little late, but
I guess the only thing would be, I can't remember how you folks did trash. You providing your own trash barrels. I know we have, and I can't remember when the exact timeline. There are new trash receptacles that were put on the town green, probably while you were doing, or maybe it was after. I can't quite
It
remember.
was after.
Okay.
We had all the food vendors put out trash cans, as well as part of their setup. So, you know, Tim had one out there, Laura from Lulu's. We had like more than one. It was like one for the bar, two for the food truck. And really the only people that we're looking to bring in that were not there last year is Matt Byron over at Three Squares, because he's looking to do stuff on a Monday as well. And he also has a actual food truck. So with these kind of events, it's kind of like the more the more options you have, like the better turnout you kind of have, you know, because it has more appeal. So it's kind of just, so he would probably, you know, I would assume put out a trash can as well, and then everybody took care of their trash at the end of the night.
Okay.
And I have a special job. At the very end, I go around with some rubber gloves and I pick up every single thing that's on the grass.
Great. I like that. Yeah, that's great. I mean, the trash cans are there obviously to be used. I just want to make sure that by the end of that event, that the town ones aren't overflowing, because I think ours are picked up on a Monday, and so it might be another week before those are emptied. So
yeah,
and I didn't hear of any issues last year, so I'm sure it's going to be fine. But just a note.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that's part of the deal. That kind of everyone just takes care of their own trash, and then because we're putting on the event, we'll make sure that everything is ship shape and tidy before we leave.
Great. Fantastic. Any further questions, board?
I'll make the motion. We allow them to use the park on Monday night.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
All those against, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thanks,
Awesome.
guys.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
Good luck with your event. Can't wait to attend.
We'll see you all there for some dino nuggets and some French fries.
Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Something that we want to revoke it, we could.
Moving on.
You know, haywire. Can we always pull it?
I would think so.
Number 2, Recreation Department request for the 2022 Human Powered Parade, proposed for Saturday, May 14th, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Meredith.
Yes, so this year's going to be a little different. We are not crossing North Street. That's really kind of like a high traffic crossing, which always made me nervous. So we're not doing that. The route this year is leaving from the Bristol Rec Field, crossing Liberty onto West Pleasant, and then we're going to go from West Pleasant down Taylor to Pine, and then Munsell Ave, back to West Pleasant, cross over Liberty, and then play games out in the rec field. A lot smaller. The other thing that we found was when the kids, you know, the little people, little riders were going up Fitch, the parade stretched out, and it was causing some problems to be able to cross North Street. So we've just decided to take that out of the element. So we're requesting that it would be all right to have our little parade at 11 o'clock, do the route, and then head back over to the field to play games. That's it.
Can folks see the screen share
Yeah.
of the route?
Yeah, looks good. And you've spoken to the police department and okayed that with them? It looks fine, but.
We've had a conversation about it because there was going to be another event on the same day.
Okay.
So really, Bruce being there, the last time I chatted with it was really more, you know, the volunteers are very important for traffic control. So the plan is, you know, where the intersections are, we're going to do it the old school style. You have a lead, and then whoever the volunteers behind the lead, they pull off and they become the traffic guardian. And then the next intersection, the second person behind the lead drops off and they become the traffic director. So,
Okay.
So every, you know, all those corners are, you know, like West Pleasant, Taylor, that little intersection there.
Okay.
You understand what it's like? It's kind of like a,
Yep.
yeah, you just drop your trail guide,
Yeah.
whoever's behind.
Okay.
And yeah, and we plan to have some food over there, some vendors. Everything that we're doing is right in between the pavilion and the hub, which is pretty cool. And for music, I'm just using my cell phone, very basic DJ cell phone.
Sounds good. Any questions from the board?
Just about, Meredith, I'd like to say that you avoided that Liberty Street in that corner of Pine because the landfill, dump is open that day, so that'll be good. You'll have a little traffic, I hope, by the horse rink crossing from West Pleasant on to Liberty with the dump traffic.
Yeah, we'll have that one, somebody stationed there. It's, most likely I'll be the closest there because I'm also running the games right after the parade. So I'll be out there in my giraffe outfit with the orange colors.
Sounds good. Is that other event happening on that day?
I believe the big truck is not happening now.
Okay.
And that was going to be over at MAUSD, which is a great idea. So I'm looking forward to working with Josh later on for that.
Okay. Sounds good. Any other questions, board? All right. I'd entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we allow the Human Power Parade for Saturday, May 14th from 10 to 1.
Thank
Second.
you. Motion and a second. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
All those against, nay. Motion carries. Excellent.
Thank you.
Good luck, Meredith.
It's going to be fun. Hope to see you.
Yep. All right. Thank you. Okay. Item 3, appointment and reappointment of town officers may include deliberation and executive session to discuss appointments. Val.
As I mentioned in my notes, this is kind of a recurring agenda item as we continue to advertise vacancies and people express interest. And tonight, Ben Skalazdra has re-expressed interest in serving on the Design Review Commission. So that's what's on the agenda for tonight. And Ben is with us tonight.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, Ben. How's it going?
Good. How's everybody?
So you wish to join the Design Review Commission?
Yes. Yeah. So I think this was one of the ones that really interested me because when I first applied for the Energy Committee, I also was reading about all the other committees, and the Design Review Commission seemed like a really great opportunity to kind of maybe lend some of my experience as an engineer dealing with some AHJs and other areas, and kind of knowing the applicant side maybe could be beneficial. And I honestly, I like reading the zoning regulations is an interesting, thing to me. And so and I think it's really important to be part of, if I could be part of the group that helps try to keep downtown the way that it is, but still allow it to grow, and sort of kind of finding that balance and finding that nuance is really important for our small community. So I just think I could be an asset to the commission in that respect.
Terrific. Thank you. Well, I'm a member of that commission. It was actually one of the first that I joined, I think, when I moved here to Bristol, and it has been very interesting. It's obviously a very small area. It's sort of just in the immediate downtown. There aren't a tremendous amount of applications that happen every year. You could probably look at the town website and see maybe 1 or 2 in the last couple of years. But obviously it sort of jumps depending on what people are doing. If they're putting a fence in or redoing a sign or redoing a facade, things like that. But it is a fun commission to be on. So I think it'd be great to be able to fill that up and be able to have that full membership again. Any questions for Ben from the board? Or Val, do you have any questions? Or
No, just a comment that this position would fill a vacancy with a term that runs through March of 2025.
Okay. Any questions for Ben from the board?
Just out of curiosity, you're the Ben that's been sitting off screen, that's been at all our meetings?
Yes, same one.
Awesome. Well, I was just curious.
I'm trying to stay plugged in.
Yeah, well, it's good. I just, it's nice to put a face with the name. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
I think anyone who finds design review interesting and defines zoning regulations interesting,
Yeah.
I say put him on the board.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
I will second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
Against, nay? Motion carries.
Thanks, Ben.
Fantastic.
Thank you very
Ben.
much, everybody.
Sure. Val can send you details, and then I think Chris Hurley, he's usually the person, our contact person when we have an application. He'll be added to that list of people, and I'll update the website. And then if and when we have an application, you'll be notified, and then we'll do the meeting.
Sounds good. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Ben. Val, anybody else on that list that we need to update?
Not tonight.
Okay, fantastic. Moving on. Let's just update my times here. Let's see. Water Commission. Jill and Cy are back. Consider quotes from Vermont Pump and Fabrication to replace versus rebuild the water system high lift pump. May include deliberation and executive session to discuss appointments or choice.
Valerie, do I need to pull open that quote or do you have it right handy?
I have it right handy and I'm trying to set it up.
Okay, that's perfect.
Yeah.
I can give the summary is that to rebuild the pump that we have versus to replace it with a new one is $200 different. So in the fact that the motor and the pump come as one unit, by replacing it with a brand new, we have a spare motor and technically a spare pump to rebuild someday when the world decides not to be so ridiculous. But right now we don't have a spare pump to replace either of the two beautifully identical 2.5-inch pumps that are currently running at the pump house.
So for those who don't know, and I'm going to include myself in there, what is the high lift pump?
Oh, okay.
I mean, I know a little bit, but I want to know all about it now.
Okay, so I'm just going to give you guys kind of a synopsis of how the water moves through the system. There's only 2 sets of pumps. Everything else is gravity. So we have a spring box, which is just to the right of the river and just behind the pump house. The water comes in through the ground up into the spring box. It's groundwater. From there, it's pulled into our spring box by what we call the low lift pump. So the intake for that is in the spring box, and the low lift pump in the pump house, which is much smaller, like the size of a very, very small dog or a large cat. That's the size of the low lift pump. Okay, so that pulls the water from the spring box to the chlorine contact tank where we get a portion of our contact time and the chlorine is injected in the system. We then have 2 identically sized, thank you guys for doing that last year, high lift pumps that take turns running. Those are a 2.5-inch pump. Those are the size of a very large, very fat dog.
I like your sizing is based on animals. That's good.
Right, or like a medium-sized pig. They're huge. They're very big. They are workhorse. They're 75 horsepower. They are the workhorse of the water system. They are taking the water from way down at the pump house across the river, all the way up Basin Street, all the way up, well, not all the way up, partially up mountain, taking a right up Mountain Terrace, and then going all the way up to the water tank. That 600,000 gallon water storage tank, holds all the water for the system and disperses it by gravity to the water system, providing all of the pressure. So these babies are super important. We have 2. They're finally identically sized, meaning that the spare that normally is on the floor at the pump house is meant to be able to put in place during any kind of pump failure or preventatively to say, ooh, gosh, this has 45,000, this has 60,000 hours. It's time to proactively change it out. So that is what this pump is for. It is the major pump that gets the water from the pump house all the way up to the tank so it can get to the entire system. We have no other pump house. We have no other pumping. This is it.
And the thing that you have to deal with is Champlin is the Cornell distributor in New England. Champlin is the folks who put the pump house there originally. And there's really no other place to go to look for better pricing, is what my understanding is, because they hold that proprietarily. How do you say that?
Yeah, they're the rep for New England, and Roger, which is this pump company, is doing his business with them because they're the only rep in New England. So I don't know. I look at this knowing that Roger's done all the rebuilds and all of the service work, and that he's the guy that's, I know most water systems and snowmaking systems use Roger Vermont Pump and Fabrication because he specializes in these.
He's the guy for New England.
He is. So, whilst we could put out some crazy bid to some pump reseller in some other state, I feel like it could get confused in the specifications on what we have very specifically for our motor and our pump and our sizing, and then have it not fit. And I would hate that.
I don't want to go through that.
Yeah.
Jill, it's in the budget, right? Or Valerie, this
Oh
money?
God, yes. We have plenty saved up in the capital budget for this. It's just, I naively was thinking like 10 or 12,000.
It's not supposed to cost this much. We have certain individuals to thank for the price hikes everywhere, so we just gotta bite the bullet, I guess.
I would say we go with a brand new one instead of rebuild.
Is that comes with is that just the pump, or does it comes with the motor as well?
So the complete comes with a new motor and a new wet end, a new pump end, opposed to just refabbing the old pump end and throwing it on the old motor. Doesn't make any sense, really. It'd be good to have a spare motor kicking around for the $200 difference in cost.
Yeah, and we're in town every single day. So if ever anybody is like super curious,
We can show you.
we would love to show you guys what your water system is. It's really quite awesome. It's great in the fact that it's somewhat simple, not a whole lot of pumping, very beautiful, clean water. And it's been there for a while, so.
I'll take you up on that.
Yeah.
So have there been any advances in motors? I mean, are we putting the right motor with this pump, or should we be using a soft start, or are they soft start? I don't know.
We already have soft starters in the pump house.
So this is the route.
So going new is the route to go, $200 more.
Well, and I think what I'd love to see is to do a study on the actual treatment facility and work for a design and a construction of an improvement for the 30-year, which you're 3 years away from. And if anybody sees this pace of projects, it's that nothing happens fast anymore. So if we'd like to be able to upgrade the pump house in the next 3 years, we're going to want to do a study this year, and then a design, and then get out there for construction and try to align that with the infrastructure funds that are coming. And they're different than the funds that you guys are talking about right now. It's a different pocket of money that's far more extensive.
So with that in mind, does a redesign, or at least a new concept, look at a potential change to what the equipment's used? Would we?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so would we pay this 15 and then potentially in 3 years be replacing this with a new design, or maybe
you could
5 years?
potentially be replacing it tomorrow.
Yeah. You have
Okay.
one pump with 47,000 hours on it right now. So we're kind of like, I don't think we're gonna get 3 more years with 47,000 hours.
Okay.
But buying a new one for $200 more, we don't have to take that one out of service to get it rebuilt, because we're just gonna let it run until the new one comes in, and put it in, correct?
Correct.
Yep.
I make a motion, we buy the new pump.
Okay. We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Further discussion on this matter?
Yeah, I just want refresh my memory. The system can only handle that 400 gallons a minute, so there's no advantage to putting anything different in there.
Yeah, it's actually about 527 gallons a minute is what we figured out is the max that we can do with our current low lift pump and our contact tank, the way it's currently configured.
But hey, I have no problem blowing out lines and replacing them.
Yeah, well.
We can do that. You know, I hear you're coming out of retirement anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd like to not have a super hydraulic explosion coming up Basin Street. I think it would be-
I just, you know, if we're gonna put a new pump in, I just wanted to ask the question. I seem to recall that was all we could pump, so.
Unfortunately, I mean, it'd be cool to pump it faster with less energy and less resistance, but I think it's that next big step of doing a study and looking at all the pieces and parts. And if it means a bigger chlorine contact tank and putting in bigger lines to go up to the tank, but then you need a bigger tank. So, you know.
She wants to spend money.
I don't know. Don't do that.
Okay. You definitely think that the study is worth it. Like, even if it's a big change, there are definite things that we can improve. And also we're looking at the longevity. We're coming up on our end of life really for this design. And we are looking for the future, the next 30 years. There are going to be major changes. It is going to cost money, but it's something that we have to do no matter what, or we just continue to just fix it and repair for the next 30 years, or that's not even an option, correct?
It's not broken yet.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's typically any kind of water treatment facility or wastewater treatment facility has what's called like a 20-year evaluation every 20 years. So you guys are at 27.
So we're getting close.
Yeah, 28, 29, 30. And then it's like, oh, you're at your 30-year evaluation. So it's because it's a actual treatment facility and it's not, I don't know. They do a lot of work and they're as sophisticated as they are the day that they're designed, but not as sophisticated as they could be 30 years later.
But you got to remember there is good things about some simplicity, you know?
Yeah, I mean, we appreciate that it is pretty simplistic, that it's really just a couple transducers and some controls and nothing too hard. And it just really pumps into the contact tank and up to the storage
Because, you know,
tank.
you can have these great grand systems all built with all these foreign parts that once it's built, you can't get those parts anymore. And it's new technology. It's something that has to be looked at as well, you know, when you do the study to make sure that the parts are going to last the 30-year bid that you're looking to replace.
Yeah. Okay.
So the main issue is that our contact tank is too small and the water can't spend enough time in there. Is that where we're at?
So
What's the calculation?
the size of your chlorine contact tank right now with the 520 or so gallons a minute coming up, when it runs from 22 to 25 feet, we're almost going below the line of no return. Like it's getting too low and it's going to cavitate the pump. So in essence, to pump it faster, you'd need a bigger contact
You need
tank.
more volume.
More volume.
Okay.
Yep, for contact time, which is a calculation for water treatment and for actual, volume to move.
Okay. All right.
Double whammy.
So you don't starve anything and create any air bounds or anything like that.
Yep.
Okay. All right. We've had a motion and a second to.
Who seconded?
I thought Peeker.
Who did?
Peeker.
Well, then who made the motion?
Joel.
I did.
Joel did? Okay.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? And this is for to purchase new versus repairing. Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
All those against, nay. Motion carries. All right. Go get us some new equipment. Thank you, Joe. Thank you,
And
Si.
we ought to have it in 5 years. If it goes away, everything else is gone now.
You're welcome. Supposedly the new one is 2 weeks and the rebuild is 12. I don't know. We don't have a generator yet, guys. The new one. That was supposed to be what, last October or
Oh my
September? Still nothing.
It's in some port somewhere, sitting in a container.
I don't know.
Can we send you driving down there to collect it?
I'd
Oh
love
my
to
God.
go get it.
Please, somewhere warm with sun.
All right. Thank you, Joe and Si.
Bye.
All right, moving on. Number 5. Consider quote by L&D safety marking for striping on Pine and North Street for pedestrian walkways. May include deliberation and executive session. Val.
Yes, well, as I mentioned in my notes, we received a quote from L&D Safety Markings to provide striping. I believe it's for striping on North Street and Pine Street, but Eric is here and he can correct that if that's not accurate. For the purpose of bicycle lanes and pedestrian travel. I did not disclose the quote publicly in case the select board feels that additional quotes are needed. But another question is, if we do want to go forward with this, since it's not a budgeted item, would it be this fiscal year? And it's not a budgeted item for next year either, I don't think.
Yeah.
Here, it is. It's budgeted for.
Okay.
Yeah, but it is for the next beginning of the fiscal year.
Okay. So Eric, do you want to take it over and correct stuff?
There isn't much to correct, Val. You pretty much got everything. I reached out to a couple other companies other than L&D. They never got back to me. L&D is the one that usually does all the paint striping and stuff for the state. So I gave them the footage and the width of the stripe, and they gave me a quote, and it is budgeted for after July 1st.
Yeah.
The only thing that I would need to purchase after that would be the stencils that need to go in the lanes for pedestrians and bicyclists, which I should be able to get them out of my budget after July as well.
Okay. And I think, has the design of what's going to happen, has that been finalized? I know this came through the ad hoc bicycle pedestrian committee that was started, and that was a recommendation, and I think the select board approved it. It was put into the Public Works budget for beginning July 1st. But did we settle on what was going to be done in terms of the design? Do we need to revisit that at another meeting just to confirm what we want to do and what we want to see, just so all the board knows what's happening?
Yeah.
I'd like to see what's gonna be on the ground.
Okay.
I'd like for it painted.
Wait, are
Probably
they,
gonna be a stick figure and a bicycle. Well, that's typically what it
Right.
is.
Yeah.
It's it's a stick figure with a circle on top and then the
Yeah.
bicycle.
right.
Yeah.
And
I think,
it'll just
you
be
know,
a straight size of the lane, correct?
Right. I think we should talk to our official committee and have them present something. What we did, and I was sort of involved in terms of doing the mock-ups for the lanes. That was just me on the computer mocking up what it might look like. So I don't want them to take that and be like, okay, do it like that, just in case. So I think that if we had our committee look at that and present what they'd like to see and what should be officially be done, I think then we'd have our answer. We have our template to use. We could hire these people potentially, and then I think beginning July 1st, we'd be able to have this implemented.
I know we got at least one committee member on. I don't know if there are any others. Jerry's on.
Right. Where's Jerry? Jerry, would that be something? So maybe I can talk to you. I can talk to the committee and just have you folks finalize what you'd like to see for the pedestrian sort of walking striping on Pine Street, and then also what needs to be done for North Street in terms of the striping, because that's one of them would be pedestrian, which was what was discussed for Pine, and then North was going to be sort of more bicycle lane.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
There's lots of different stencils out there for sizes depending on the width of the lane.
Right.
And we've got a lot of stuff in the fires with locomotion and different people.
Okay.
And the bike and walk summit is this week or next week that we're going to. So we're going to get a lot of input. So if we can hold off with the final design, that would be great, because we're going to work on all that.
Okay.
Because all that's in the process.
Great. I think we'd rely on you and the committee to sort of come up with that final design and present at a select board meeting in the near future. We could finalize that and then officially hire and be able to get that done.
Perfect.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Ian, and I'd like to, as a board, have a discussion whether we I mean, I know what the board knows what the estimate is that Valerie sent to us, but then I know I'm not gonna reveal it, but should we not do Pine Street until we get it, a new water line and paved?
1 year striping anyway. It's an annual. It's an annual thing.
Yeah, Joe, that's gonna have to be refreshed annually. And then after you
Okay.
do it, my guess is after you do it for 4 or 5 years in a row, you might be able to skip a year depending on how much the plows and the wings peel off.
If they peel it anyway, they like they do my lawn, they will get it good.
Okay.
It might end up coming down to an annual refresh on the paint. So
Okay. Is that, Eric, is that something that, again, we're hiring someone to do that? Or is that something, if it's just refreshing, can the Public Works Department do that? Or is that out of the scope?
it depends on how wavy you want the lines.
I like your honesty.
The machine that I push, any little pebble or whatever is on the street, it'll make the machine either tip, tilt, or wave, and I can't control that.
Okay.
So, it would be better if a truck could come in and do it.
Yeah, because you're striping short distance stuff, crosswalks, things like that, not long roadways.
No.
Okay.
No.
Except for South Street.
Yeah, South Street is the longest I do from basically just at the bottom of the hill through the bridge. I make a white line through there, and that's
Okay.
about it.
Is it, I mean, for future, since it seems like we would only potentially be doing more of this, and the fact that we might have to do it every year, every other year, this kind of equipment, is it worth our Public Works Department looking at this as a potential investment, or is it just so far beyond what we might want to pay?
Yeah, I wouldn't purchase one of them.
Okay.
Right now. You're probably talking $500,000 for that piece of machine.
Okay.
Now you can get something little that will do the job of something right on it that has a paint sprayer on it.
Middlebury has one, looks like a little golf cart. Almost. Little cart, right.
Yeah, something like that might work.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay. I mean, yeah, it seems like, we're interested in doing this. We have a bicycle pedestrian advocacy committee that is probably going to recommend more, and just to refresh and not have to pay a certain amount each year to an outside company if we're able to invest, and just sort of look, if we're continuing this for the next 10 or 20 years, what we can get out of a piece of equipment. That might be something to look at. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And then we could, if they do it with a golf cart, we could always get an electric 4-seater and you guys could take that to get coffee instead of a gas vehicle.
There you go.
And the other thing you might, just for the back of you guys' mind is street sweeping. I forgot to mention this. Hopefully I'm going to have a truck either this week or the first week of May. It's getting harder and harder to find somebody with a street truck to come in and sweep. And I talked to Jimmy Laro down at Virgins, and he has a pickup broom that goes on his loader. So we may want to consider our new loader next year when we get rid of it, to get a new one, is make sure that we have the auxiliary attachments, hoses on the boom, so that way potentially we could get one of them pickup brooms and then go back to sweeping our own with that.
We've done that in the past, and we don't do that anymore.
No, usually we hired VTUMs to do our streets. But like I said, it's getting harder to find somebody to come in and sweep.
Yeah, VTUMs don't want to do it.
No, they sold their rig.
So we only had one sweeping truck. They are a major wear item. And we kind of felt, since we're not really focused on sweeping, we're super focused on water and wastewater and stormwater, it doesn't really make sense to try to get another sweeper truck, maintain something that wants to break itself every other day and choke on dust constantly. So we're sticking with water, clean and dirty.
Have you already sold that, or can you sell it to us?
I in retrospect, I wish we would have talked to you guys first, because we didn't sell it for very much money. I'm sorry. You'll get tired of it too, though.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. All right, great. So yeah, worth considering about potential line striping equipment and street sweeping equipment. Okay, we can talk about that another time. I think we're set on this particular matter. So do we want one question?
Valerie's got a question.
Yeah, I have a question.
Sorry. Okay, we have multiple questions. Val.
No, I just wanted to point out that in order to preserve the quote, Eric did sign the quote, knowing that if things went south on this decision, that it could be canceled or retracted later. So I did want to mention that. And if folks are inclined to stick with this quote, do you want me to go ahead and disclose it? I can do that, or do you want to wait until after the committee's had a chance to look it over and make their presentation?
Does the board wish to receive other quotes? I mean, I guess it would just be whether we could get other quotes for a comparison. And then my second would be, I guess the quote is based on what we did, our designs that were presented by the bicycle previous ad hoc committee. And I guess probably nothing much will change. I mean, Jerry will update us in a couple weeks. So maybe we want to hold off just to see if there's any changes in that quote potentially. Hopefully not. Hopefully it won't increase.
Well, that's why we had Eric. That's why Eric locked it in.
Okay.
Budget for July 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not budgeted for more than that, so,
Right.
I mean, we are kind of tied to what we can do this year. If we want to do more, it would have to be in next year's budget.
Right. And my question is, where does it put us in their timeline, knowing that everybody's work is getting scheduled far out?
Well, that was the other reason for us to lock in to get into their schedule.
Right.
Okay.
They
That makes sense
wanted
to
me
me.
to sign it so that way I could get locked, like Valerie said, I could get locked in after July.
Okay. All right. I'm fine with having this approved and locking us in, especially because it's probably going to take a while and we can't spend it anyway until July 1st. So that gives the committee time to finalize the design, present to the select board, and then we're ready to go after July. Does that sound good, board?
Works for me.
Okay. We shall do that. So I guess a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve the quote for striping from L&D safety marking.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
And for disclosure, the quote is $5,544.
Thank you, Val. All right. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
All those against, nay.
Hey,
Motion carries with one no.
Yeah, I just have one question.
Sure,
That
Jerry.
was just so I know when we got our meeting on Thursday. That's just for a straight white line and breaks with the roads and different things. It's nothing fancy. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That's what we're talking, keeping it simple and just the
Yeah.
stenciling stuff. So
Yeah, it was
okay.
the line, and then Eric, does it include stenciling, or is the stenciling something that you guys would do?
No, stenciling is something that I can do with our machine.
Okay, perfect.
I just need to get the stencil.
Okay, terrific. And yeah, and
We're
we
gonna
can
work on that, Eric.
Yeah.
We're gonna look at some designs and get back to you on that.
All right, thank you.
Terrific. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Okay. Let's see. Moving on. Okay. Let's look at the time here. 8:14. Okay. Review item 6. Review of final designs and cost estimates for the School Street and Elementary School subsurface stormwater infiltration chamber projects. Val.
Yes. Well, fortunately, Paul Boiver, how do you pronounce your last name?
I pronounce it Beauvais, which is sort of the half French thing we do in France.
Beauvais.
Yeah.
Well, I thank him very much for tuning in. I did not expect it. I didn't ask him, but I did want to let him and his partners know that this was on the agenda. They prepared very detailed reports on the two projects that they studied. Their reports are very detailed. I did not even attempt to summarize the more technical aspects of their reports, but I wanted to, in my notes, just wanted to highlight some of their conclusions that they made And in particular, and folks can look at the reports, they're online, they're very detailed, the final design plans, the pollutant entrapment and calculations. And I made some general notes of that in both reports. Engineering Ventures felt that the 30% designs were a little bit ambitious or optimistic in what they thought could be accomplished in either any of those locations. And of particular note on the School Street project was the presence of the water line. And I don't know that the 30% design really took that into much consideration. But also, one thing I didn't point out in the school street project was that, and I'll just read this a little bit from the report, that the orientation of the infiltration chambers is largely based on the desire to preserve portions of School Street right-of-way for future buried utility lines, and installation of the system will require deep excavations. And in order to minimize impact on the existing park features, a temporary sheet pile wall or other means of temporarily shoring be required during construction. So deep excavation and a temporary wall, sheet wall. Before I go further, I'll ask Paul if you want to just step in since you're here.
Sure. Yeah, thanks. That was a good summary, Valerie. Yeah, I was wondering about the school site initially because and I noticed the size of the drainage area they were trying to treat with that was like, I think it was like 50 acres, which is really large and it gave me a little heartburn at the start. And then there's the other thing is that there's really no discharge for overflow from that area. So, if you bring in 50 acres and there's overload, then it's going to go over to the lawns and the neighbors that spills off property. So a few things about that. And then the other thing that we figured out was that there was some existing wastewater systems in the fields in the school where the system was going to be. So we kind of changed it up. We were able to fit one system in, and the way we reconfigured that one is a little more focused on treating the impervious areas right around the school, which I thought made sense also because, usually, you're asking the school to kind of give up some property or control some property. So it's easier to sell if it's supporting the school itself. Also, you're just sort of, you're encumbering the school property a little bit. So it just seemed to make sense to us. Hopefully that makes sense to the board as well. But you do get some good improvements out of it. I think you get some solid flow control. It's a what we designed is a subsurface chamber system similar to what was in the 30% design, just reconfigured in different sizes. I'm not gonna compare those sizes to dogs. I think it's probably bigger than the Mastiff. Close as I could come. So, I love Jill's description, especially considering I know she grew up in an engineering household. So anyway, and then for School Street, yeah, there's that water line which is old and would be difficult to dig next to. I think that's in the way of the system. You can move it in, you can move a system into the park. You can do other things with it, but what we were tasked with is to try to fit what we could within that area. So again, they're large systems. It's and you get a fair amount of storage and flow control out of that for the size of the system. It's you're bringing almost 30 acres in, so the price tag is very high, and that we're over 500,000 on our estimate, and we took the estimate went at it pretty carefully because I think that's prices are volatile. Engineers aren't always great at getting all the latest prices because we don't actually buy these things for the most part. So, but we had a comparable project in South Burlington. That's a large chamber system that was bid out, unit price basis. We're able to kind of data mine that and compare it. So we put some good effort into the pricing for that. So I think, in terms of what the performance of that system would do, I think we looked at, I think it was like 35 pounds per year of phosphorus based on the state calculation, practice calculator, which is not bad. It's a it's a good area. I think the other thing that we would do is kind of cut down the peak flows. For a 1-inch water quality event, we're really collecting that. I think a 1-year storm, we're going to reduce the flow from 2.1 cubic feet per second to 1.44. So it's a 33% drop. And for a 5-year storm, you're dropping it not as much, but about 4%. Again, back to the. So one of the things that's happening for the discharge from here is it goes over across through the historic. I forget it's your
Behind Howden Hall.
Yeah. So it runs behind, and then it comes out over the bank. There is in the side of the street, I think there was a small infiltration system put in, like a chamber, open bottom chamber. And you're in big open gravels there, but even so, you can only infiltrate a small portion of that runoff just because it comes in fast and leaves fast. So there is a little bit of erosion below that pipe. So this system would help a lot with that. But you really have to weigh whether the community can afford it, whether you can find money for it. I think because there's also involves the water line work.
Oh, was it looked at? Sorry, was it looked at to basically keep the same size chamber instead of putting it on between the park and the playground there and the church, and put it behind Howden Hall, that big area behind Howden Hall?
We did not look at that. That was something when I was out there I was thinking about. But do you have a wastewater system on site behind that, or is that collected in municipal?
No, it's behind it.
It used to be the old high school behind there, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
That got moved.
Yeah.
Right. So, but that would be a much less expensive place to put it. But yeah, that did replace the wastewater capacity there.
Okay.
And one thought we had while exploring the School Street project is that obviously there's a lot of money available now and in coming years for infrastructure and stormwater management. But also if and when we decide to tackle this project, we can probably bundle a number of funding sources, including for replacement of the water line, perhaps relocation of the water line with a new water line. So we might be able to bundle an attractive package that would help cover a lot of the cost.
Yeah. And I think if you get into the water line, you wouldn't really want to do just that one stretch. I think you'd want to at least do that portion of loop around the park or something, so there's efficient work and you're doing that whole section, I would think.
Probably put that in our 40-year plan, like Pine Street.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not inexpensive, but I think it's a fair estimate based on what we come up with. So, and the prices are crazy right now, but.
And then I got a question for the Bristol Elementary site one. Was all that water that infrastructure system that was going to be in the ground, was all that water going to filter out of that and stay in the ground, so to speak?
No, he said when it fails, it's going to boil out.
Yeah,
when
yeah.
It overflows.
Was it ever looked at? There's a piece of land that's south and in the southwest corner of the playground of that school that runs. It's a little strip of land that runs all the way up from North Street to there. Was it ever looked at to try to pipe that from go into the infrastructure, whatever you call that system, and then the clean water, so to speak, put it down to North Street and get it down to the river?
If you really have a corridor, there, then that could change things a little bit. But you'd really be looking at the overflow. You'd bring the overflow bypass. I think is what you'd want to do with it. Because this is an infiltration system, so you do a pre-treatment, and I've got tanks. We usually use tanks for something like this because it's easy for municipality or school to maintain. You have somebody with a Vector truck come and pump it out. So we go from a tank to a chamber system, which would infiltrate as much as it can, and then there's an overflow arrangement usually, so that in a higher event storm, especially because if the water's really coming down dirty, you kind of want that to bypass. If you had a super heavy rainfall, like think about a real August storm where you're getting 2.5 inches an hour or something, that's where that you'd want to be bypassing that. And we were concerned about that school site because some of that, I understand, their runoff right now goes over into the neighbor's yard. So even though you currently have a discharge there. Increasing that overflow, I think, would be really unpopular there, and it's probably it's really a bad idea. So we were concerned about the 50. We wanted to kind of 50 acres that were proposed to go there, and we wanted to kind of cut that down to something more manageable. That's a very large area for a single chamber system. 50 acres. So, you know, we proposed something that we thought could fit without really impacting the school too badly. And again, it supports the school impervious surface. So it fit for me.
Okay. All right.
We have no say in that one anyway.
Right.
Yeah, there is that. It's not school property. So I appreciate that it's Bristol, and there's maybe a little less friction with some of the projects I do between schools and municipalities.
Well, that's nice to know.
I know I had a project about a year ago, and it almost went all to attorneys discussing it between the two sides. I'm like, aren't you the same community? It was really.
I want to point out, you were talking about, there are several landowners that have approached them several times about selling. No, they don't want to do anything. Yeah.
Val?
I just wanted to point out that in addition to the final plans and the performance reports that I mentioned that I wasn't going to try to decipher, both reports also include permit evaluations, opinions of probable costs, which we know, operations and maintenance manuals, site construction plan sets, and the site civil construction specifications. So if and when we're ready, it's packaged up to go out to bid practically. So they put in a lot of work, a lot of information is available for us.
So
yeah, I think you know, there are occasionally is money put out there for, you know, projects like Ready to Go. So I thought that would help, you know.
Yes.
So given that, Val, do we have a particular timeline? Is there something that you have in mind of when we might want to explore this, or it's just sort of waiting on it for the right opportunity to come along?
At the moment, it's not specifically pending.
Okay.
We can take a look at the upcoming calendar and projects and look at the long list and decide where it fits in. But it might be more of an opportunistic situation, and the fact that it is practically shovel ready, that when the right opportunities come along and we're prepared to put a package together, we have the capacity to put the package together, then we're ready to do that.
Okay, fantastic. All right. Do you need anything more for the board in terms of this particular thing?
No, but this was an FYI, just kind of close the loop on this project.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Paul. We appreciate you being here this evening.
Yes,
you're welcome.
thank you.
Hopefully you can find some use out of that package, but I certainly understand if it's a little pricey to put in the ground. So whatever works for the town is good with me.
Great. Terrific.
Thank you
so much.
You know what's interesting is the geotechnical engineer that we got working on this one really only took the project because he likes Bristol so much. I figured I'd tell you that.
That's good. That's nice to hear.
Anyway, thank you.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion on this from the board? All right. Moving on. Item 7, review and adoption of the Bristol Local Emergency Management Plan. Val.
So hopefully folks had a chance to look at the latest version that was emailed out this afternoon. And I say the latest version is because the previous version that I sent out resulted in some corrections, and I made the corrections, sent it back out again, and that resulted in some additional corrections. So so I think the version that you received this afternoon, and by the way, I made a note that because there's so much personal information, contact information in this document, that it's widely accepted that it's not shared publicly online. So it's not public. So I don't mean to be evasive when talking about this document. And I can note that there are 2 more corrections or additions to the version that you have. One would be a request from the rescue squad to add Bill Elwell, Deputy Chief, as an alternate contact.
Will, not Bill.
Oh, Will, okay, Will. What did I say?
Bill.
Oh, my mistake. Okay, thank you. Will Elwell. as an alternate contact for the Brisky Rescue, and you have the contact information. And then Mark Bouvier also pointed out that Living Well on Maple Street is now a private residence, so that needs to be corrected. And he pointed out that that the Bristol Elementary School principal might need to be updated. I guess that position is in transition. Any questions? And Michelle, who was paying close attention, even from afar, caught a recent correction that needed to be made regarding the reference to the treasurer at the top of, let's see, what was it? I did make the correction, I believe.
Page 7. Or another page.
At the top of page 2, the purchasing agent for emergencies,
Oh, okay.
section
Oh, yeah.
3.
Yep.
So that's been corrected.
Okay.
And there's just one minor one under all the excavators. I think it should have said 802 and not, well, maybe.
Well, what did it
One said
say?
Heffernan Brothers excavating, and then didn't have 802. So I was just wondering.
Well, 802
802 is different
will
than.
be, yeah, they're different, but this is their last year, so.
Oh.
Should something be corrected?
No, I guess not.
Okay. Well, if the board has further comments or corrections, just let Val know via email.
But the select board does need to take action to approve it tonight, and there's a form that needs to be signed on the front counter at the town office.
We can approve even if it's an ongoing update. Is that okay?
Approve this plan.
Okay.
Subject to minor corrections.
Okay. All right. I entertain a motion on that.
Oh, second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
All those against, nay. Motion carried. Thank you, everyone.
Great, thank you.
All right. Item number 8. American Rescue Plan Act. Funding update and select board goals. Val again.
Right, hang on here, I'm trying to turn off the chat. Where are we? Oh, right, this was the American Rescue Plan. And Ian, you had posed a question about whether something should be considered for this item.
Correct. Bruce and I had a discussion thinking about the positions and new positions for different departments and whether ARPA funds could be used for hiring bonuses or those kind of benefits, and what the select board thought about that. And it's not particular to the police department. It was something I think Bruce had brought to my attention in terms of other towns using the funds for that. And this is given how difficult it is to hire people in any kind of position, it seems like, whether we would want to consider or put that forth to the committee for consideration.
My suggestion would be to add it to the list that the review committee would be, just add it to the mix that the review committee would be considering.
Okay.
By the time we get done with all the requests, we're gonna have about $1 for each organization.
Yeah. Any thoughts on that from the board in terms of using that for hiring? I know that, we're looking, the town is looking at it for certain positions, but I don't know if there's potential in that. And it seems like it would be a one-time use of that money.
Yeah, it would be a one-time use and it wouldn't be anything that would affect the budget down the road. That's my biggest concern.
Right.
If we use it to offset some budget costs, then it's gonna hit us double the next time around.
Right. Okay. All right. Yeah, I think, Val, I think you're.
That's not to say that I don't agree with using it to start the position that Bruce talked about earlier.
Yeah.
You know, I would think that's gonna be a startup cost whenever we do it. So it's not like it would just prolong it a year if we use that to get it started.
Yeah.
And then we could budget for it the following year.
Okay. All right. I think I like your idea, Val. Just add it to the matrix, the ever-growing ARPA matrix, and see what the board committee thinks about that.
If I could just chime in real quick. The
Sure, Bruce.
town would have been using this. It doesn't add to the person's base salary. It's just a one-time retention bonus.
The bonus, yes.
Yes.
Yes,
So it doesn't add to the tax.
right.
Right.
Okay. All right. Any other updates, Val, from that?
Nothing other than the fact that today I successfully submitted our expenditure report that was due by April 30th. So check that off the list.
Great.
Yeah.
It has begun. All right. Okay. Moving on. 9. 1 second.
Right, the goal.
Select board calendar and goals for the coming year.
This isn't very much different. I'll try to share a screen here. Here we go. I don't know that it's much different from the previous one, other than that tonight's agenda item about the school street and elementary school stormwater projects. They were originally slotted in May, but I realized that because the project needs to be closed out by April 30th, might as well try to get that in ahead of time. So that was done. And I'm not sure if the police district union contract review was on the previous list, but it's on there now. That's definitely going to be coming up in May and June. It expires at the end of June. So I did not hear back from others about adjustments that should be made. So looking at those pending projects coming up, we've got the audit and the pump house stuff. Actually, the Stony Hill infrastructure project is just about done, and the grant will probably be closed out by the end of this week. So that's good.
Where are we with the audit? I know that we've got the assets part of it done. When do we receive the final thing in hand?
Well, I think we'll see a draft in mid-May, early to mid-May.
Okay.
That's the plan.
Great.
Valerie, you said that the Stony Hill project is going to be closed out this week, and you did say earlier, maybe not this meeting, the meeting before, that Weston was coming back to do some touch-ups and things.
Right.
One of those
Yep.
touch-ups, the sewer area that's just all dirt now, not.
I'm not sure what the specific details are that need attention, but actually, Alan Heinziger and Steve Palmer agreed to assist with review of the final work that's done, sign off on it. So when they know that Don Weston will be there, that they'll plan to be there also, is what I understand. Assuming that enough coordination can. But that's the plan. And Don Weston appears to be very committed to leaving the project in the best condition possible.
Great. And Brett mentioned that in his update, just in terms of what's happening.
Right, some of the other areas along the road and yeah.
Okay.
I mean, because all the hay that was, or the very little hay they put on the left going down Stony Hill over the sewer system, it's all blown off and there's nothing there. And I don't know how grass ever gonna grow there till we get some reconditioning of it.
I expect that once folks get out there to take a look at things, they'll make a list and tackle it.
That's in the Joel in the Leachfield area?
Yes, Leachfield, sorry. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And so we'll want it, Val, we'll have Don Weston and his crew finish those, an update before the closeout.
By closeout, I mean all final expenses and the grant is done. All
Oh,
the
okay.
grant work is done. Yeah.
So that those aren't necessarily connected with the work that Weston might have to redo a little bit and clean up.
Right. Yeah,
Okay.
that's my separate terminology.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Is there, looking at your list, you got the airport drive sidewalk scoping. Has the date been set for that yet in terms of that first meeting?
The the kickoff meeting was held.
Oh,
And
okay.
then, yeah, and
April
from
1st.
there, what?
April 1st it was held, kickoff meeting.
It was held, yes. And from there, they're going to assess existing conditions, try to sort out some of the right-of-way issues, and then check back in with the steering committee with that information and see where else they want to go with that. So the next big thing is going to be Basin Street.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So we know that we got $300,000 grant. The Vermont, one of the VTrans Transportation Alternatives Grant program. And then we're still waiting to hear from the Downtown Transportation Fund for $200,000. But the tea leaf being very good for that. So I'll keep you posted.
Okay. Any other discussion on this from the board?
So then just going back up to the schedule, just in case there's anything to check in about, if anybody sees anything that's out of whack, that something's missing that should be placed on the agenda, rearranged.
When's our little bus trip?
That's usually in June.
Okay. Oh yeah, there we go.
And we talked about it at the last meeting or previous meeting about the class 4 road policy.
Yep.
and try to have something started for discussion in June.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Val on this?
Am I, no, I see it now. Sorry. Nope, I answered my own question.
Good. All right. Moving on. Thanks, Val. Review and approval of what minutes do we have this evening?
Well, I sent out the January 10th, a form of the January 10th minutes this afternoon. I had a lot of technical problems trying to get that out. So it's still in markup form. I couldn't get past that.
Okay.
So if folks had a chance to look at it and had any adjustments to make, or you want to wait till the next meeting, because it's obviously been done. So,
okay. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet.
Understood.
I haven't had a chance to look at it yet either.
Okay.
I just wanted to make a comment that the December 13 minutes were approved at the January 10th meeting. So
Okay.
we can take that off.
Lovely.
like to see that list get short.
It needs to get short.
I know.
Okay. All right. So let's work on the January 10th. Let's look at that and give feedback to Val for next meeting.
And perhaps others as they become available.
Yes, of course. All righty. 11, authorize accounts payable warrant and any liquor licenses.
I don't have any liquor licenses, and the warrant was $70,263.35.
Okay, thank you. And next, select board roundtable. Darla.
I do not have anything for this evening.
Joel.
Just a couple of things. One for Eric. Is you still on there?
Yeah.
Eric, I asked you about that, that new house that went in on the River Road just off of 116, in the corner there.
Yep.
The excavator owner, the builder, excavated all the way down to the ditch line. Can we at least see our section of that, throw some hay on it or something? So, if we get some heavy rain, could that wash into the ditch and then cause you more, to have to clean it out?
That shouldn't be on us. That should be on him. We didn't dig it.
Yeah, I know we didn't do anything with it, but it's now on our land. That's in our right of way. So I just was wondering, I'm going to refer that maybe to Peaker. Should we at least get out to the landowner to put some hay on our side?
Well, he doesn't own it anymore.
Right. He got his CO permit, walked away and, yeah. And how's that driveway permit cutting for, up on Hartscrabble Road that we asked about last fall? I see that driveway hasn't changed a bit. Now there's a house there with that shop. There's a house.
House
there.
has its own driveway.
House has its own driveway.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. And then I unofficially, I've asked a couple of people that walk by my house a lot. Some walk in the morning and some walk at night. And if you don't think Pine Street was busy, I was out there just an hour tonight and 17 people walked past my house in less than an hour. So, but I asked this couple, mother and a daughter, if they would kind of do an unofficial sidewalk study for us. Just, I said, as you're walking the sidewalks, would you just tell us between a 1 and a 10, 10 being the worst and 1 being the best, what they are? And I leave a note on my door every night if you have to, when you walk by, if you've written them down the night before. And I said, and then my sister and sister-in-law had agreed to do it in the morning. They walk about 5 miles in the village. And they said, sure, we'll walk and tell you which ones are bad and which ones are good. And leave me a note. So kind of unofficial, but at least to start, we can get, maybe know where the bad sidewalks are.
Yeah, that's great. Excellent.
And that's all I have.
Community engagement.
Yeah.
Peaker.
Alrighty. Brett, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
I don't want to blindside you, but I haven't had a chance to talk to you since I talked with Dave Shaw, and they got their new fire truck came in, was being delivered, and there was some upcharges. And they said, he said they told them to pack it because they had a signed contract for a certain amount of money and they'd paid a portion of that truck ahead of time, and it's not their fault that the cost of stuff went up, considering we were supposed to be built by now and we haven't even started to build. And I'm just curious as to how I know that everything's going up, and I'm just wondering what good is a signed contract if we can't hold them to their price? And I'm sorry for
so Eric Foran, who led this working group, and just to be clear, we're talking about 2 different manufacturers, correct?
Okay, I would assume so. We're talking about a signed contract. Yeah.
Right, but we're talking about 2 different manufacturers, Middlebury, whomever, and we're using whoever. So, but I know Eric Foran, who led this working group, had this conversation with our representative from Lakes Region, Mr. Pat Shaw, David's brother, and we had similar questions. They were asked. We, the town of Bristol, like Middlebury, the select board approved, X amount of dollars a year ago up front. So we would get a reduction. I think it was like $7,000 or $9,000 in the overall cost. But certainly if this is a concern of the select boards and you at least like us to revisit this with our vendor, which is Lakes Region, we would certainly be happy to do so, just to provide you folks some reassurance that, well, 1, things are still on track, but 2, we're not going to get any unforeseen, charges here because, as you said, we have a signed contract, so we have no reason to believe we would pay any more than you folks signed off on. So, but if that's something you'd like us to look into deeper, I'm happy to do that.
It just seems, Brett, it just seems like COVID was in full swing when we ordered the truck, and if there were difficulties getting materials, which we all knew there were, they would have taken that into consideration when they gave us a build date and a price. And I'm sorry for blindsiding you with this. I wish I'd had a chance to talk to you ahead of time, but it bothers me.
You're not blindsiding me. It's a legitimate question, and we could ask any salesperson the same question about anything we buy. And as we are seeing across the board, and all our salesmen, obviously we don't buy fire trucks every day, but we buy other pieces of equipment regularly. And our salesmen have all been very upfront with us about, hey, just so you know, on this date, the price of this set of turnout gear that, cost $2,000 now is going to now cost you, $2,400. So if you want to take advantage of current prices, here's your opportunity to do so. So everybody's been great about that. But certainly we will ask the question, Peter.
Okay, I would appreciate it, Brett. I just, it's one of those things that, if you agree to do something for a certain amount of, you do it. And if I agree to do something for a certain amount, I do it. And I find it hard to believe that we can be a company that's been in business that long that didn't have the foresight to order our pumps so that they didn't end up paying extra money for it when they had the money to do so. So.
Yeah, and I certainly can't speak for, what they did already have in stock for parts, what they still had to order, what they still have to order. All we know is right now our, delivery date was pushed out approximately 6 months, so currently we're looking at a September 2022 delivery date. But yeah, I hope we don't see that, when it comes to our capital fire truck fund. It's a very sensitive subject for me, and just very, so appreciative of what the taxpayers support, ultimately you folks support of us. And, I just don't want to have to ask for more right now. So.
It's a beautiful looking truck.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's a beautiful looking truck.
Yeah.
Okay.
All righty.
Anything else?
Yeah. Did anyone else get a email from a Mia Thompson? Bristol Alzheimer's support. She's just asking if we can put the link to them on our website. And I don't know anything about, I don't know anything about our website. I don't know what's on there. I probably should, but it was an email sent to me. I can forward it to you, Ian, so that you can look at it.
I already put it on the website under our community links.
Okay, so it's there.
Great.
It's there.
So I wasn't the only one that got it.
No, I got it. I think it was last week.
Great.
Yeah.
I think I got
the
one too.
18th. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Excellent. Thank you, Sharon.
And I, by the way, I get a lot of those kinds of requests pretty regularly from a lot of different organizations, including mattress disposal and all kinds of weird things. And one of my guiding principles, and I don't know that it's actually written down anywhere, but it has to be something Bristol specific. It's not going to be some like senior education, remote stuff that's just more generalized. It's got to be very Bristol specific in order to be added to our website.
Yeah, I didn't know what the parameters were, and it was sent to me. I figured maybe the only reason it was sent to me was because I was chair before, and I forgot it last meeting. So
right, I haven't looked at that. I haven't looked at that specific recommended site, but I know that others recently that I received regarding opioid treatment did have a very specific Bristol link. Even though it was from a broader organization. And so I think that would be a reasonable thing to include.
Yep.
And then was there any follow-up from the Wendell letter? The email we got on the right-of-way concerns?
I'm not
From a Heath Drive. The exchange between you and Ian was that you weren't sure exactly what it was about, but Ian surmised that it was probably the trail network.
I've not heard anything more.
There was, I've heard a little bit about that. I don't know. I'd like to get more specifics from that person. And since it was my guess that it was about trail network. I do know that there has been talk about trail up there. It hasn't been led by the Bristol Trail Network. I believe it was led by one of the owners of one of the properties up there. And that's all I know so far. If we can hear back from that gentleman, just in terms of what the meeting that he's alluding to and the people in discussion, I'd be happy to follow up.
I know. I'm guessing that's probably what it is in regards to, but I know in the past he's tried to subdivide his property in the town, told him he couldn't. He owns both sides of the road, so therefore he owns the land under the road, even though people have a right of way beyond it. And I think that's a legitimate concern on his part. So
Okay.
I think, we just need to make sure that the rules are being followed when we're doing this stuff, because it sounds like we've got a bunch of people that are not happy with some of the trail stuff right at the moment. So
yeah, I've spoken with Porter recently at length about that, and I think going forward she's going to be sort of more aware. Not that she's not aware. I think that she's doing everything correct. But I think because of what's happened in other areas, I think we just need to be more mindful. Just because I think she's well respected in the community and she gets things done. And so I think even if people see her, connected to something, even if the Bristol Trail Network and she isn't actively working on it or putting it forward, I think people start to make assumptions about that because they've seen her around and she's getting all these different projects done. So yeah, she's aware of that. We've had a discussion. I think the Heath Road thing seemed to come from one of the landowners, and there was discussion about that. There was nothing official that came from the Bristol Rec Club in terms of putting trail up there. I think it was just a neighbor saying, "Hey, would this be interesting?" And then just a discussion. So anything now is just in a sort of discussion, like, do people actually want it? And that's one of the big things too with Porter. That she doesn't want to put trail in areas where people don't want trail. She wants to engage as many people as possible, and she's actively trying to do that, and has done for the last few years. Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else, Peter?
That's all I have.
Okay.
That's enough for me, considering I don't usually have stuff.
That's good. No, it's great. I have one thing, and that's just an update for the Bristol welcome signs. So we have a final cost of $600 for the 3 signs. That's for them to be manufactured by 802 Print in Virgins. So that's a dollar item that I'd like to put and have some money for. I know that Joel talked about approaching the Legion. I can do that. I also like to just see if the town is able to find the money. They are town welcome signs. They were put up by another group back in 1999, but I think it's something that perhaps we just need to do the cost for. And I think it's a minimal amount of money for the 3 welcome signs. And also we've received the design and my time to sort of have them done, and that's all been free. So I think it's a fairly small amount to put up 3 new signs to remove the ones that are aging. So that's the
Can you
cost.
tell me the number again?
$600, and that's for all 3 signs. And I reached out. I had a request from the board to reach out to the landowners. I've reached out to 2 and received permission. Sylvia Coffin was very appreciative of the new designs. She liked them a lot and was very excited to hear. I called her myself, and she was very excited to hear that we were going to update them. And I sent her an email with the design in. She liked it a lot, so that's good. And we have her permission to continue that use of that location. I also talked to Tommy Lathrop, and he also was very appreciative of being contacted with regarding the sign. And he gave us approval to keep it there on the corner of his land by Stony Hill. And then I've left a couple messages for Trent and Abby Rollo. I probably just need to drive down there and or see him or her dropping off their kids where my son goes to preschool and just chat with them. My guess is that it's probably going to be fine, but I'll double check with them and confirm that we have permission from them to continue to use it in the Gateway Farm area. So that's the positioning. So we're almost done with that. I've also been in contact with the state, and Michael Poulin, he's contacted me on behalf of I guess the district maintenance and fleet division offices at the state, and he's been following up with me. He doesn't have an answer in terms of moving the speed sign, which is about 10 or 20 feet away from our welcome sign. I've suggested to him that if the sign could be moved more toward Bristol, that would help, because then you could see our welcome sign first and then see the speed sign. Obviously, that needs to be determined in terms of the distance and where the sign needs to be. Or maybe it would be moved further out of Bristol, and so you'd see that one first, and it wouldn't interrupt and essentially block our welcome sign. So that's a positive thing. He also asked whether our sign could be moved, and I said it could be if we had to do that, but we prefer not to, just because the location is actually a very good location. And in terms of one other thing I followed up with him were the official business directional signs. Michelle had made a comment about that a couple meetings ago, and I made a comment too. I have another person, Tony May at the state, who I can email him some pictures of the signs, the new ones that have been put in that are hard to read and also have a spelling mistake on, and then hopefully we'll get some answers about that. So I'm going to take some ones, since it's a little bit easier, just on Stony Hill right there, because there are some signs going up the hill. I'll take a few photos of those and send those along, and hopefully either get them updated with definitely the correct spelling of the road, Munsell, but also see if there's a reason why they've changed the design and the font, because it's completely different to the sign just up the road from that the Wallaces have had for many years. So that's my update on that. So we have the design approved for the sign. I'd like to get approval for the 600 to have them manufactured, and then hopefully we can put them in the next few weeks. And I think since it's a $600 amount, I don't know if I need select board approval for where that's going to come from, or we just find a budget that we can take that out of. And that's all I have. And Val's shrugging her shoulders. Maybe I'll work with our treasurer on finding $600 for our town sign.
Yeah, you find it and we can approve it, but we can't spend it. We can't spend it unless it's warned. Yeah. We have a rule that we can't spend money on select board concerns. It has to be an agenda item at the next meeting. So
does it need to be an agenda item given the amount?
We approved the project, right?
Yes.
And we didn't have an amount. I guess if
it was an estimate. Yeah, I have an official quote now.
I guess if we approved the project, then, and it's under the amount, if they can find it, then I would say go ahead. We don't need to deal with every penny that's spent. I don't want to micromanage.
Good. Okay, and that's all from me. Excellent, thank you. Let's see. Hold on, I gotta get back to my list here. Where are we at now? Hang on. Other business. Oh no, town administrator's report. Sorry, Val. Anything else to add?
I don't have anything to add to my written report, although I do want to note that around a little before April 15th, Eric and I realized that a grant deadline was coming up. A VTrans roads grant was coming up. The deadline was April 15th, and we put our heads together quickly to come up with an application. And what I ended up doing was submitting an application on Friday for funding to install guardrails on Upper Notch Road, 800 feet one way and 800 feet the other way. And it was a pretty late in the game proposal. And it occurred to me too that I would have needed to submit a grant authorization form, which I was planning to do for this meeting, but it turned out not to be necessary because it wasn't funded. So, so too bad for that. Next year we'll have the option of either reapplying for that with a little bit more thoughtful application, or the Moncton Road paving, perhaps.
Did you receive feedback in terms of why it wasn't funded, or do you know why?
I have a pretty good idea.
Okay, that's good. Well, it's always good to get feedback on those kind of things.
Yeah, I will, but I ordinarily do. But I think I would have been anyway. I would have a little bit differently.
Okay, sure, not a problem.
But I had the time.
Anything else?
Yes, I just want to note that I received a chat message from Brett just a short time ago that the pressure washing at the Lord's Prayer Rock was completed today. A big thanks to Eric at DPW for making the town's pressure washer with the 250-gallon tank available. Thanks again to the select board for supporting this young man as he strives to complete the requirements of scouting's highest rank. So
great.
I'm happy to pass that along.
Our pleasure.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, other business, correspondence reports, correspondence received.
I do have something to add here.
Okay.
I received an email exchange today from Tyler at Evernorth, and he is asking if the town would mind, if they applied, well, actually, the town would need to apply for what they call an enhancement to the original grant award of $535,000 for the Firehouse Apartments project for an additional $50,000 for a total project cost of grant amount of $585,000. And I mentioned I'd run it by the select board if there were any concerns, but it would be basically an amendment to the previous grant authorization request.
I don't have an issue with that.
No, it doesn't change any of the town's obligations at all.
Rest of the board, thoughts?
And by me,
Okay.
How many hours is that of your time, Valor?
0, maybe 5 minutes
Oh,
to hit submit.
Okay.
They're gonna, the deal is they do the heavy lifting and I hit submit.
Okay, if you can keep it under 10 minutes, Val.
I try.
All right. Do we have executive session for this evening?
We do, at least with Bruce, and I don't recall if Eric wanted to meet with the select board in executive session.
He does not. He
You
is
want,
vigorously
you have-
shaking his head.
you have news for us, Eric?
Nothing, I can convey the news that he shared.
Okay, okay.
Great.
Give us a thumbs up.
All right, good. He's free. Okay. A motion to go in executive session, please.
And invite Bruce.
And invite Bruce.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Eric.
Do you have the blurb? What is it? I'll make the motion to go into executive session for
1 VSA, section 3.
Personnel.
1A, and personnel matters per 1 VSA 313A and 3.
Thank you, Darla.
And invite Bruce.
Okay. Second. All right. All those in favor, say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
All those against, nay. Motion carries. We are in executive session. Thanks, everyone. Good night, Jim.
Thank you.
you were ready to dissent if you.
Good night, Amos and Betsy.
Okay. Okay.